gracious good day to one and all once again. 'Tis I, Norton the First, by grace of God, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. Back with you all once again for episode number 185 of Emperor Norton's fantastic history vlog. Today is January 27, 2021. We'll be covering the 27th of January to the 2nd of February this week. And today is our 317th day living under COVID-19 restrictions. Maybe there's some hope. Of course, the vaccine is here. That's helping if we could get enough out and properly distributed. So that's helpful. But also, we're starting to see a reopening of things here in the Bay Area, which is wonderful. As of Thursday, there's outdoor dining again. Great time of year for it, huh? Small gatherings. We went from the purple tier to the orange. Now, once we reach the yellow tier, which hopefully will be fairly soon, we shall be doing tours once again. So just keep your eyes open for that. We'll start off with Saturdays to expand from there. Hopefully it won't be a false alarm like it was back in November when we had to, at the end of the month, go back into shelter in place. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that one. Also, if you attended our first fantastic trivia quest 2 weeks ago, we appreciate that greatly. And we're having another one this Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you'd like more information for that, here's some where you email emperornortontour@gmail.com. It's $10. You can win valuable prizes. We made the contest a little more difficult this time because everybody was getting those answers correctly last time. So we threw in some hard ones this time. We'll see how it goes. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like down below. And in addition, we accept gratuities for this vlog. So we appreciate all of our wonderful donors. Here's how you make a donation to us, and that's what keeps us going. This wonderful green screen, good microphone, things like that were purchased out of funds given to us by our generous donors. Hats off to all of you. Let's get into the show, shall we? We'll start with our national days, and first one being today, the 27th. It is Thomas Crapper Day. Now, he's the gentleman who invented the modern toilet and where the word crap comes from. It is also International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Never again. The 28th, National Kazoo Day. Oh, I forgot my kazoo. Oh, well. There we go. Get out your kazoo. The 29th is Curmudgeon's Day. Guess I'll have to go see the movie Up that day. The 30th is National Croissant Day. Oh, we love a good croissant. The 31st is Yad Dwarkab. Backward Day. I don't know if you're supposed to spell things backward or walk backwards, or I don't know how one celebrates that. The 1st, Spunky Old Broads Day, and we know a few of those, so hats off to all of you as well. And the 2nd is Groundhog Day. Let's see what Puxtawney Phil does this year. And also, oddly enough, it's Hedgehog Day. I guess the hedgehogs got jealous of the groundhogs and insisted on having, I don't know, same day. Your guess is as good as mine. Well, let's move on to our Florida Man segment. We've got 3 today. Oh, they've been active down there. Starting with the 28th, Florida man thought he stole opioids, got laxatives instead. He was in for a surprise. The 29th, Florida man sentenced to jail and moral therapy for attacking a minion, you know, from the movie Despicable Me, those little obnoxious yellow things. And last one from the 1st, Florida man arrested for trying to pay bar tab with a rock and pulling out a briefcase and saying, this briefcase either contains a bomb or a baby? Okay. For our San Francisco history today, we rely, as we always do, on John Ralston's wonderful book, This Date in San Francisco. Gotta get the upload straightened out there. And we're going to do one story today, but it's a goodie. January 27, 1894. The California Midwinter International Exposition opens in Golden Gate Park. Kind of the forgotten one of the three World's Fairs that have been here, but let's talk about it. It was the first one. While serving as director for the California exhibit at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago in 1893, Chronicle co-founder and publisher Michael DeYoung envisioned a similar exhibition in San Francisco after the Chicago Fair closed. The San Francisco Fair would differ from previous fairs by opening in January, which would emphasize to the world San Francisco's mild climate in contrast to Chicago's, for example, with its vicious winters. DeYoung got promises of support from foreign and domestic exhibitors, pledged $5,000 himself, and got pledges of $41,500 from other California and Chicago in Chicago after overcoming their reluctance to invest money during the recession in California and the United States. Returning to San Francisco, DeYoung proposed locating the Midwinter Exposition in Golden Gate Park and petitioned park commissioners for 60 acres in the park's northeast. Commissioner William Stowe and Park Superintendent John McLaren were adamantly opposed, along with many others, as an exhibition in the park would set a precedent for commercial use there. After much debate, park commissioners granted DeYoung's request. The Midwinter Exposition would, in fact, occupy almost 200 acres. Ground was broken on August 24, 1893. The official date would be January 1st, 1894. In just over 4 months, the site would have to be cleared, buildings constructed, exhibits installed, grounds landscaped, and publicity maintained. Many of the exhibits would be transplanted from Chicago, saving time. The most prominent architect was Arthur Page Brown, designer of the California building at the California Exposition, not to be confused with Arthur Brown Jr., designer of the San Francisco City Hall and many other public buildings. Exposition buildings were placed along a south-northeast axis around a sunken Grand Court of Honor, which occupies the area of today's Music Concourse. At the southwest end, now the site of the Spreckles Bandshell, was Brown's 135-foot-high domed administration building in Moorish and Byzantine style. Clockwise around the axis, on the site of today's DeYoung Museum, was the 400-foot-long horticultural and agricultural building designed by Samuel Newsom. Northeast was the Egyptian Revival Fine Arts Building designed by C.C. McDougall. At the end opposite the administration building was Brown's 462-feet-long Manufacturers and Liberal Arts Building, the largest structure both at the fair and in the state of California at the time. On the southeast, site of today's California Academy of Sciences, was the Mechanical Arts Building. In the center of the court was Frenchman Leopold Bonnet's Eiffel Tower-inspired electric tower. San Francisco's climate is mild, but the Sierra Nevada mountains is not. Ironically, heavy winter storms prevented trains with exhibits from reaching San Francisco by January 1st, 1894, the official opening, and was delayed until Saturday, January 27. According to the Morning Call, 100,000 people lined Van Ness and Golden Gate Avenues to watch the Midwinter Fair parade to Golden Gate Park. Market Street was lined with every description of vehicle: trolleys, wagons, buggies, horse carts, mule carts, donkey carts, all joined in the throng, all displaying the business was laid aside for a day. Just after 2 p.m., Mrs. Michael DeYoung pressed an electric button that set the fair's machinery going, which, said the Examiner, marked the ending of months of anxiety, of endeavor, and determination to succeed. It was the touch of success. It meant that California's International Exposition had come out of the realm of doubt, of speculation, and of dread, and was an accomplished fact. On the first day, 72,248 persons attended the Midwinter Fair. It ran until July 4th, 1894. Total paid attendance, 1,315,002 persons. Expenditures, $1,193,260, a profit of almost $67,000. That was enough for concessionaires to bear the cost of removing exposition buildings, but many did not, and the Park Commission had to tear them down. The electric tower was dynamited by John McLaren's crew. An enduring legacy of the 1894 Midwinter Exposition is the Japanese Tea Garden. Built by George Marsh, an Australian immigrant who had lived in Japan, the tea garden was maintained by Makoto Harigawa and his family until they, along with thousands of American citizens of Japanese ancestry, were, quote, relocated, unquote, in World War II. It is beloved and patronized by locals and tourists today. So that whole area with the California Academy of Sciences, Spreckles Bandshell Music Concourse, Japanese Tea Garden, De Young Museum, all of that was the fairgrounds in 1894. Well, let's move on to our other history for today, shall we? Starting with the 27th, 1825, U.S. Congress approves Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma, clearing the way for the forced relocation of the Eastern Indian tribes via the Trail of Tears, or as we like to refer to it, the American Genocide. 1880, Thomas Edison patents the electric incandescent lamp. 1888, the National Geographic Society is founded in Washington, D.C. for, quote, the increase and diffusion of geographic knowledge, unquote. 1924, Lenin is placed in a mausoleum in Red Square in Moscow. 1948, the first tape recorder is sold. 1956, Heartbreak Hotel, single released by Elvis Presley, his first million-selling single. I want to thank you very much. 1965, groundbreaking for the Dragon Gateway at Grant Avenue in Chinatown, the Dragon Gate. 1967, a fire in the Apollo 1 command module kills astronauts Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger B. Chaffee during a launch rehearsal for the first mission using an Apollo capsule. A very dark day in space exploration. 1972, world premiere of Scott Joplin's rediscovered opera Tremonisha at the Morehouse College in Atlanta. And that was written around the turn of the 20th century. And we're going to be using Scott Joplin music for our background music today as a tribute to him for that. It was the first rag, and possibly only, ragtime opera. 1984, Michael Jackson is burned during filming for a Pepsi commercial, top of his head. Gave him problems for the rest of his life. Moving on to the 28th, 1887, work begins on the Eiffel Tower in Paris. 1914, Beverly Hills, California is incorporated. Swimming pools, movie stars. 1956, well, here's Elvis again. His first appearance on national TV, the Dorsey Brothers stage show. 1958, the Lego Company patents their design of Lego bricks, still compatible with bricks produced today. 1985, the charity single We Are the World is recorded by Supergroup USA for Africa. 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger explodes 73 seconds after liftoff from Cape Canaveral, with all 7 crew members killed, including Krista McAuliffe, who was to be the first teacher in space. The same day as the Apollo 1 disaster. Oh, that's a pity. Moving on to the, different days, 27th and 28th. Moving on to the 29th, 1845, Edgar Allan Poe's poem, Raven. The Raven is first published. Nevermore. 1850, Senator Henry Clay drafts the Compromise of 1850 to diffuse tensions between slave states and free states over territories won during the Mexican-American War, and that's why California is a free state. But you know what? It didn't work. 1892, the Coca-Cola Company is incorporated in Atlanta, Georgia. Stay away from the museum, it's a ripoff. 1920, Walt Disney starts work as an artist with Casey's Slide Company for $40 a week. 1921, a hurricane hits Washington and Oregon. Yes, it can happen. Moving on to the 30th, 1661, Oliver Cromwell, Lord Protector of the Commonwealth of England, is ritually executed after having been dead for 2 years. That's how bad his crime was. So see, you can impeach somebody once they're out of office. 1815, burned U.S. Library of Congress is reestablished with Thomas Jefferson's 6,500 volumes. 1847, Yerba Buena is renamed San Francisco. 1931, City Lights, a silent romantic comedy film by Charlie Chaplin starring himself and Virginia Sherrill, premieres at Los Angeles Theater. 1933, after Paul von Hindenburg appoints Adolf Hitler as Chancellor of Germany, his former World War I colleague, General Erich Ludendorff, sends him a letter to him stating, "This accursed man will cast our Reich into the abyss and bring our nation to inconceivable misery." He was right. 1946, the first issue of the Franklin Roosevelt dime. 1948, Mahatma Gandhi is assassinated by Hindu extremist Nathuram Godse. 1961, I Fall to Pieces is released by Patsy Cline, and it was the Billboard Song of the Year for 1961. 1962, I got to look more into this one. Laughter epidemic begins at a girls' mission school in Kahasha, Tanzania, goes on to affect 14 schools and over 1,000 people. The laughter spread. Almost 160 students between the ages of 12 and 18 attended the school. By the end, 95 of them had succumbed to the epidemic. They died laughing, which is our greatest wish, but hopefully not from this joke. Reminds me of a Monty Python bit. 1965, the state funeral of Winston Churchill at St. Paul's Cathedral in London, then world's largest ever state funeral. Oh, we remember it well. 1968, the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese launched the Tet Offensive against the South Vietnamese and U.S. forces. Oh, I hear Bummer out there again. Bummer is a very bad dog barking during the broadcast. 1969, the Beatles performed their last live gig, a 42-minute concert on the roof of Apple Corps headquarters in London. And if you've never seen the rooftop concert, it's great. And we have that movie coming out by Peter Jackson next year, the re-edit of Let It Be. And from the preview, well, it wasn't actually a preview, it was a teaser. It looks really good. 1972, Bloody Sunday. 27 unarmed civilians are shot, 14 are killed by the British Army during Civil Rights March in Derry, Northern Ireland. This is the highest death toll from a single shooting incident during, quote, the Troubles, unquote. 1975, Ern Rubik applies for a patent for his magic cube invention, later to be known as a Rubik's Cube. 1978, Mutual Broadcasting Network begins airing The Larry King Show on radio. He just passed away recently. Moving on to the 31st, 1851, San Francisco's Orphans Asylum is founded, the first in California. 1876, the United States orders all Native Americans to move into reservations. 1911, Congress named San Francisco as a Panama Canal opening celebration site, the Pan Pacific International Exposition of 1915. 1928, Scotch tape is first marketed by 3M. 1955, RCA demonstrates the first music synthesizer. 1961, Ham the chimpanzee is the first primate in space, went to 158 miles up. Aboard Mercury Redstone 2, Ham lived until 1983. 1970, Grateful Dead members are busted on LSD charges. 1999, Seth MacFarlane's Family Guy first airs on Fox. 2020, the United Kingdom formally withdraws from the European Union. Brexit. Moving on to the first, 1790, the U.S. Supreme Court convenes for the first time in New York City. 1862, Julia Howe publishes the Battle Hymn of the Republic. 1933, the German Parliament is dissolved by Paul von Hindenburg by the request of new Chancellor Adolf Hitler. 1964, students stage first civil rights sit-in at Woolworths in Greensboro, North Carolina. 1968, Saigon police chief, I'm not even going to try to do his name, executes a Viet Cong officer with a pistol shot to the head. This execution is captured by photographer Eddie Adams and becomes an anti-war icon. 1978, Harriet Tubman is the first African-American woman to be honored on a U.S. postage stamp. 1979, Patricia Hearst is released from prison for bank robbery. 1982, Late Night with David Letterman debuts on NBC. Bill Murray is his first guest and his last guest, as well as being his first and last guest on Late Show. It's a tradition. 2004, the wardrobe malfunction. Janet Jackson's breast is exposed during a halftime show of Super Bowl 38, resulting in U.S. broadcasters adopting a stronger adherence to FCC censorship guidelines. Moving on to the second. 1653, New Amsterdam becomes a city, later named New York. 1709, British sailor Alexander Selkirk is rescued by William Dampier after being marooned on a desert island for 5 years. His story inspires Robinson Crusoe. 1811, Russian settlers established Fort Ross Trading Post north of San Francisco. Been there. 1848, the first shipload of Chinese immigrants arrives in San Francisco. 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ends the Mexican-American War. The U.S. acquires Texas, California, New Mexico, and Arizona for $15 million. 1887, in Puxatawny, I think I got that right, Pennsylvania, the first Groundhog Day is observed. Don't tell Bill Murray. 1901, Queen Victoria's funeral takes place in St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, England. Oh, if only she'd married me. She'd still be alive today. After all, we are. Oh, by the way, our birthday's coming up, February 4th. We accept gifts. 1913, New York City's Grand Central Terminal opens. Beautiful building. 1922, James Joyce's Ulysses is published in Paris, an initial run of 1,000 copies. 1964, G.I. Joe debuts as a popular American boys' toy. It's not a doll, it's an action figure. 2009, RuPaul's Drag Race, hosted by RuPaul, premieres on Logo TV. Let's move on now to our births for today. Got quite a few. Starting with the 27th. I don't have a year on this for some reason. It got erased. Sorry about that. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. We'll put it up over there. 1832. Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland. 1850, Edward Smith, the captain of the Titanic. 1859, Wilhelm II, German emperor and king of Prussia. 1885, Jerome Kern, American Broadway composer, Showboat. 1908, William Randolph Hearst Jr., American newspaper magnate, Hearst Newspapers. 1921, Donna Reed. 1948, Mikhail Brezhnev. 1955, John G. Roberts, the 17th Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. 1959, Keith Olbermann. We sometimes steal his style a little bit, in case you haven't noticed. But let's move on to the 28th. 1841, Henry Morton Stanley, Welsh journalist and African explorer. He's the one who found Livingston. Mr. Livingston, I presume. 1890, Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz, who had no birds on Alcatraz. 1912, Jackson Pollock, the artist, another artist. 1929, Klaus Oldenburg. His Cupid Span statue is very near our bridge. 1936, Alan Alda. We like him a lot. Moving on to the 29th, 1843, William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States. 1860, Anton Chekhov, the playwright. 1874, John D. Rockefeller Jr. 1880, William Claude Duncanfield, you know him better as W.C. Fields. Ah, yes, indeed. 1923, writer Paddy Chayefsky. 1949, Tommy Ramone. He was the drummer of the original four of the Ramones, and I believe the last one of the original four to pass away. He became a record producer. 1954, oops, wait, did I go ahead? No, 1954, Oprah Winfrey. She's got all the money. A little tribute to Letterman there. 1960, swimmer Greg Louganis. 1975, actor Sarah Gilbert. 1882, Franklin Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. 1922, Dick Martin from Rona Martin's Laugh-In, You Bet Your Sweet Bippy. 1930, Gene Hackman, who started one of my favorite San Francisco movies, The Conversation. 1935, Richard Brautigan, the great author. 1941, former Vice President Dick Cheney. 1942, Marty Balin, singer in the Jefferson Airplane and Starship. 1951, musician Phil Collins. 1974, actor Christian Bale. Moving on to the 31st, 1797, Franz Schubert. 1902, Tallulah Bankhead, darling. 1919, Jackie Robinson, the first African-American Major League Baseball player, played for the Dodgers. 1921, Lowell High School graduate, Carol Channing. Thank you very much. 1923, Norman Mailer, the writer. 1937, composer Philip Glass. Also 1937, actor Suzanne Pleshette, who of course was very famous for the Bob Newhart Show and the last episode of Newhart. Oh, what a great joke that was. Never saw it coming. Watch the episode. 1951, Phil Manzanera, guitarist, a little obscure unless you're a fan of Roxy music. He's one of my favorite guitarists. 1956, Johnny Rotten himself, a real name John Lydon, from the Sex Pistols, Public Image Limited. 1981, singer, what can't he do? Justin Timberlake, very funny man too. Moving on to the second, 1895, director John Ford. 1901, Clark Gable, Frankly My Dear, I Don't Give a Damn. 1902, writer Langston Hughes, another writer. 1904, S.J. Perlman, I think he was Groucho's favorite writer. 1908, George Powell, movie director, When Worlds Collide, also known for his Puppetoons. 1931, Boris Yeltsin, former president of the Russian Federation. 1938, Jimmy Carl Black, the drummer for the Mothers of Invention. 1954, Billy Mumy, who played Will Robinson in Lost in Space. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. 1956, Exene Cervenka, one of the singers for the band X. Great band. 1968, Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's only offspring that we know of. Moving on to the second, mentioned him earlier, 1882, author James Joyce. 1905, Ayn Rand. We'll leave that there. 1912, Melvina Dean. She was the last living survivor of the Titanic, and she was also the youngest on board. 1925, Elaine Stritch, a great Broadway star, and sang what I consider to be the anthem for the pandemic, I'm Still Here. 1937, Tom Smothers of the Smothers Brothers. 1942, Graham Nash of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, also in the Hollies. 1947, Farrah Fawcett, whose death was overshadowed by that of Michael Jackson, same day. 1949, Brent Spiner, American actor, played Data on Star Trek The Next Generation. Data's my favorite character from that show. We'll come back to him in a moment. 1954, Christy Brinkley, the ex-Mrs. Billy Joel, also American model and actress, the inspiration for Uptown Girl. And 2338 is the birth date of Data, the android character on Star Trek The Next Generation. There you go. Looking forward to that. Let's now move on to our deaths for today. Starting with the 27th, 1901, composer Giuseppe Verdi, who lived in San Francisco for a short time. 1972, Mahalia Jackson, the gospel singer. 1993, Andre the Giant. 2004, Jack Parr, in my book, the best host of The Tonight Show. 2010, J.D. Salinger, the writer of Catcher in the Rye. 2014, the folk singer, activist Pete Seeger. 2018, Ingvar Kamprad, Swedish eccentric businessman, founder of IKEA. 2018, Mort Walker, American cartoonist, Beetle Bailey, High and Lois. I think Hagar the Horrible too. No, wait. No, that's Dick Brown. And of course, his comic strips are now done by his sons because he passed away in 2018. Moving on to the 28th, 1547, Henry VIII. 1596, Sir Francis Drake. 2016, Paul Kantner, American singer and guitarist, Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, was a real fixture in North Beach. You'd always see him at Cafe Trieste. Moving on to the 29th, 1820, Mad King George III. 1956, H.L. Mencken, the writer. 1963, San Francisco native Robert Frost, who, as we know, wrote Frosty the Snowman, his most famous work. 1977, Freddie Prinze, comedian and actor Chico and the Man, shoots himself, unfortunately, at the age of 22. 1980, Jimmy Durante, the schnoz. Ha-cha-cha, I got a million of them. Ah. Yeah. Just ruined my voice. 2015, poet Rod McEwen, who we met once. Moving on to the 30th, 1649, Charles I, King of Great Britain, beheaded for treason by Parliament in 1848. 1836, Betsy Ross, credited with creating the American flag. 1948, Orville Wright, the Wright brothers, first ones to fly in an airplane. 1980, Professor Longhair, American blues singer and pianist. 2006, Coretta Scott King, American activist and wife of Martin Luther King Jr., been to both their graves in Atlanta. Moving on to the 31st, 1956, A.A. Milne, the author of Winnie the Pooh. Favorite childhood book, still have my copy from then. 1974, Samuel Goldwyn, Polish-English American film magnate. He was the G in MGM. Moving on to the first, 1851, Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, Firebag. 1944, Mondrian, the Dutch painter. 1966, Hedda Hopper, the gossip columnist, whose real name was Elda Furry. 1966, one of the greats of the silent era, Buster Keaton. 1981, Donald Willis Douglas, American aircraft industrialist, Douglas Aircraft, and aviation pioneer, the DC-3, the DC-8, the DC-11, or 10 rather, it was the MD-11, but that was after he died. And 1997, a great San Franciscan, Mr. San Francisco himself, Herb Caen. Let's move on to the 2nd of February, 1969, Boris Karloff, who played Frankenstein, the Mummy, all sorts of roles. 1979, John Simon Ritchie, better known as Sid Vicious. 1996, Gene Kelly, the great dancer. 2014, the actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, was great in Capote. 2016, Bob Elliott, a comedian, half of Bob and Ray, the wonderful comedy duo, but also the father of Chris Elliott, and actually co-starred with him in Chris Elliott's series Get a Life. And wow, wasn't Chris Elliott great in Schitt's Creek? Well, our quote today is a tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. 3 quotes from him. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. Absolutely. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. And finally, an eye for an eye will only make the whole world blind. Very, very true. Well, that wraps up for today's edition. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe below. Leave your comments as well. We appreciate donations. Here's where you can do that. But there's also direct links in the description down below, and we appreciate all of our generous donors. We are still looking for someone to loan us a gently used Macintosh for a few months because ours has died until we can get another one. Also, don't forget about the great trivia quest, the fantastic trivia quest, co-hosted by ourselves and also the Countess Lola Montez this Saturday, 7 p.m. Email emperornortontour@gmail.com for tickets. They're $10, and there's going to be some great prizes. If you want more information on the tours that we may be doing again very soon, because we've entered that orange tier, we just got to get to yellow before we relaunch, so hopefully soon. Lots of good history information as well. Here's the website for that. Well, until we see you again, stay safe, stay inside, and therefore stay healthy. Now, if you go outside, wear a mask, please. Please wear a mask. Makes such a difference. Do not take unproven cures that might kill you. The vaccine is here. We just have to get it distributed since there was no plan in place. Hello. Be kind to one another. Until we see you again, a gracious good day.